Okay, that was Captain Beefheart because we are now in Captain Beefheart land. We are now in the neon meat dream of an octofish. By the way, that album's called Trout Mask Replica, and it was made in the early 70s. And very, educated musical people think that it's an absolute masterpiece. I can take it for about 20 minutes, and then I have to go take a nap. But the country is now in the neon meat dream of an octofish. I mean, we're in La La Land. We are in a freak show. Trump is in a freak show. July 4th is going to be a freak show. The IPOs are going to be freak shows. So the purpose for this conversation today is not to pile on and tell you the normal things that you've heard from me for 5 years. You've heard how many times, you're going to wake up and it's going to be like the end of Gone with the Wind. We're here. Okay. And I think you could see things like Trump could resign. People are starting to talk about that. Psychologically, he's breaking down. The war is breaking down. The economy is breaking down. The AI is breaking down. The valuation, the justification for the valuations, the deals that are being put together by Wall Street are just more and more like Captain Beefheart. Here's Wall Street.
Archaic faces frenzy, ceramic fists, artificial decease, insists rancid buds burst, dank rum and gum dust. Meat rose inhales, meat rose inhales, meaty dream, what meat, limp that rose.
So inflation just came in at 4.2%. Core inflation was actually sideways. But here's what you have to do. If you want to, I've been telling you this for years, but you can go, there's a nice piece on Substack. I've listened to half of it. It's called, and this sounds a lot like the content that I provide, this isn't a recession, it's worse. Okay? Doesn't matter what the Federal Reserve does. And what they're laying out for does a really nice job. If you have a couple minutes, you should go look at it. This isn't a recession, it's worse. It's a Substack piece. The prices aren't even here yet. The inventory that we're going through right now in everything is pre-war, pre-Iran war. The prices will show up this fall. Okay? The prices will show up this fall when it becomes obvious that not only does Trump not have any leverage over Israel or over Iran, but what Iran has done is created a situation where they have the leverage and Israel and the United States have to respond to them. This fall, we will realize for the first time, not Vietnam. Vietnam was like a stalemate. We sort of got bored and left. For the first time, a foreign power will be able to set the terms of any sort of settlement against the United States of America. It's never happened before. Probably the closest thing to it, of course, would be Grant and Lee and Appomattox, or the War of 1812 was sort of a stalemate. So we're not going to go through all that stuff again. You've heard it from me many, many, many times. One of the things you've heard from me is you can have both inflation and deflation at the same time. The propaganda that comes out of Wall Street and the Federal Reserve thinks that those things are opposites, sort of like fire and water. Okay, you can use water to put out fire, right? You can burn off water and make steam out of it. But one of the ways to die is with an oil spill in the ocean, and you fall in the water, and the oil spill catches on fire. That's what we're going to be headed into this fall. Okay, we will have very, very, very difficult valuations in the stock market to understand. We will have very difficult liquidity situations. Massive insider selling is going on right now. $500 billion of locked up restricted stock is going to start to hit later this year, along with the IPOs. the markets are being completely driven by ETFs. I mean, I'll just go through a couple headlines. Indulge me. Neon meat dream of an octofish. If you just take a gander at Zero Hedge and just spin through. Trump says we'll be attacking Iran hard again today. We're looking at it very strongly. Goldman partner warns that the circularity of the AI ecosystem is becoming harder to ignore. Number of U.S. home sellers hits highest level in 6 years. Massive SpaceX IPO demand coming from Gulf sovereign wealth funds. There's a free article called 10 Reasons You Shouldn't Ignore This Week's Sharp Sell-Off, Reversal and Sell-Off. Okay. So 4% inflation, just to remind you that the 10-year is trading at 4.5%. Okay, so there's no real return. Now, some people have anticipated all along that that's what the Fed is going to do, is effectively run negative interest rates, that they will hold down short-term rates so that the inflation rate, so basically the interest that the United States Treasury has to pay will be paid with inflation. Okay? This is non-alcoholic. I didn't know that when I bought it, but so I'm having a sip. It's really good. It's Sam Adams Just the Haze IPA, and it's non-alcoholic. It's delicious. So where we are with our project goes like this. Whenever you think about what's going on in AI, you're going to hear all these astounding numbers and transactions, and Trump 22 trillion, and just on, and the IPOs are coming. The sophisticated thing to do is not get lost in all, but ask yourself this: which technologies will either, especially with the inflation thing in mind, which is primarily but not completely limited to, controlled by the price of energy. I think this fall, $5 gasoline becomes the floor. I think this fall, $6 diesel fuel becomes the floor. But is the technology going to make our society more efficient in terms of energy or less? It's not an easy question. Some forms of AI are going to require much, much more energy. The mega projects, the hyperscalers, the giant data centers, and all those things, they're going to hit an energy wall. Okay. The other kind of AI avoids this mass hyperscaler, we need more and more and more NVIDIA chips. Okay. That's what we're working on. The decentralized, remember, like when I first started this thing, I spent a lot of time talking about Ethereum. Everybody, if you know anything about Bitcoin, it's extremely energy intensive. Right now, the only place they can do mining that makes any money is if you have almost free energy. Like you're getting energy from beside either an oil well, and they're just burning off the natural gas, and instead of burning it off, you're just running it through a jet engine that's spinning a generator, and that's clearing the transactions for Bitcoin. Or like hydroelectric in Russia, or geothermal in Greenland and Iceland. Okay. Ethereum went through this really profound thing where they went from scope of work, not scope of work, proof of work to proof of stake. And it lowered the energy required to run the Ethereum system by, I think, over 95%. AI is going to go through that. So if you get lost in the AI world, just ask yourself about the energy. Like, does this sound like this is going to take like extreme, absurd amounts of energy, in which case it's going to go away? Okay. It's not physically possible. I mean, Sam Altman at one point said something like, yeah, we're going to need X amount of energy, which would be like half of the energy of the United States. Sam Altman's just an asshole. I don't like how he's attached to OpenAI. Nobody really knows. But the decentralized kind that runs on things like I've described as basic Apple products. Okay. I read a great piece this morning that pointed out that Apple has always perfectly married the hardware and the software since Steve and Jobs and Wozniak built the first computer in the garage. They've always put that perfect ecosystem together, and now they've done that with what's called the system on a chip. It sounds like nachos or something. They're going to win the AI race because of it. And I've done some work on here, and you can do it yourself. Just ask the app. Just go to Google Gemini or whatever, and ask it to compare the best NVIDIA chip for consumers, for retail people, with the best Apple products. They're 90 to 95% cheaper. So whatever wins in AI is going to be able to deal with the energy problem. So back to I know you're really wanting to get back to Beefheart.
A squid eating dough in a polyethylene bag is fast and bulbous. Got me?
This is what it's going to feel like this fall. The stock market, the war, Trump. It's just going to be like, what kind of surreal freak show am I living in? Now, one of the things we've tried to do here is, and this is why I put the tie on today, is when that hits, if you've followed Bruno, you won't feel like you're listening to Captain Beefheart. You'll be like, yeah, he sort of said all this stuff. You'll be like, yeah, he pretty much put the whole blockchain and AI thing pretty much together. So this is the introduction to what are we going to do about it? Okay, so we have a couple things to announce. The first is I've sent a couple invitations to what I'm going to call interns. And as you normally expect, interns are frequently young. They may be right out of college. They might be finishing college or whatever. And I sent these invitations out and I said, take a look at this. Would you be interested in participating? And within 5 minutes, they said, yes, of course. And the incentive would be, tell me if you like this. The incentive would be, as you build on our AI system and you hit certain goals, you'll hit certain financial responses from us. Namely, we'll start to pay your student loans. It's $2.2 trillion of student loans. There's people that can't get a job at Starbucks with student loans. There's millions. There's going to be many, 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 many millions of people underemployed this fall. Much worse than it is now. That program will be free with an incentive. We'll pay your student loans. It'll have another round. It's humid here. It'll have another level of output where we start to make transactions in the places that you're working on. And when that happens, we will pay your student loans off. This is our internship program. There's no reason why this won't be hundreds or thousands of people in 12 months, right? We'll literally make it like a video game. It'll be sort of fun. It'll be like playing a digital form of Settlers of Catan, if you've ever played that game. If you've never played it, go buy it and play it with your friends and family over July 4th while you watch Kid Rock and the MMA battles on the White House. The White House is going to have an MMA battle. You know that, right? The White House is going to sponsor MMA. People are going to beat the fuck out of each other on July 4th to celebrate our 250th. You're going to wake up into the Trout Mask replica people. We're there. It just hasn't been announced yet. So the other big IPO goes on Friday. Yeah. So interns, then I'm working now. So over the weekend, I drove 9.5 hours to have brunch with somebody for an hour and 10 minutes, and then drove 9.5 hours back. Um, she's a director of IT, and she might be the first person with some technical background that instead of going, I don't quite get it, actually started to build things. And I was like, did you build this? And she was like, yeah, that's like the obvious next step. And I was like, okay, I'm driving 9.5 hours to like have eggs Benedict with you. She will become part of our Substack. She will become part of what's created here, and it'll be primarily in text and written form. She will sort of professionalize, is that a word? I just made it. Make the internship not just a draft idea, but turn it into a real professional process. This will be happening this month. Okay. For those of you who are still anticipating maybe becoming a partner, a couple ideas for you. One, we're going to close the books on that this month. Okay. So if you've got the documents and you've started to sign and maybe like ask a couple questions, that's fine. But you have to be money good by the end of the month. Okay. The other thing is, if you'd like to meet in Austin, you have to be money good. And if you'd like to talk to the attorney, you have to have a minimum investment. I think it's a fair request of $20,000 of 2 partnership membership units of the LLC. Remember, there's only 100 of them, and like a third of them are already taken up. So if those of you with good memory will also know that we have a PBC, and that's the thing that's going to be launched in Austin when I go meet the attorney. The PBC will begin the process to do a mini IPO. Some people want me to send them some sort of like predicted cash flow. You're sort of missing the point. There isn't like a predicted cash flow for Ethereum. Okay. It settles like $1 trillion in transactions per quarter. I think it's higher than that now. But you don't really get the joke of what we're doing. By pushing out the technology, whether it's with interns or partners or associates or anything else that I can come up with, by distributing the technology, that's more important than saying how you're going to make money and how you're going to make a return on my investment. This is why you're a partner, because you're going to participate. Now, remember, all the hardware that we need for this is about, we can make master agents for 10 grand. The best laptop and the best thing from Apple, it's about this big. You can put it in the corner of your room, and you could run the state of California on it. Okay. So there's a couple ideas, a couple ways to get involved. There's the intern program. You'll get something on Substack. It'll be sent to everybody, whether or not you've subscribed or not. And to participate, of course, you have to be a subscriber. Still happy to have more partners. We're going to wrap. There's not really any incentive for us to just keep this open and just say who wants to come on board. I mean, at some point we close the books and say whoever's in's in, whoever's not, there's more for the rest of us if there's less people. So, but my theme to you today is not just silly music from Captain Beefheart. By the way, Bono of U2 sent him a letter about 10 years ago and said, would you like to do something together? Would you like to produce, some music together? And on the same letter, Captain Beefheart, I think his last name is Valet. Yeah. On the same letter said, thanks, Bonzo. No, and just returned the letter to him. So, there's a little bit of Captain Beefheart in all things Bruno. In other words, there is something really strange about having to be on here for month after month, year after year, explaining that eventually we're going to wake up and nothing's going to make any sense. Not the financial markets, not the war, not the price of things at Costco. It's all going to be complete madness. And you'll be ready for it. You'll know what to do about it. You'll see the opportunity. You'll make friends and family part of that. You will see, oh yeah, this is what he said was going to happen. when you wake up to $7, $8 diesel fuel, you'll be like, yeah, he's the guy that said like this is going to end. It's like the end of a war. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can go watch Gone with the Wind. Go watch the last hour of it. It's just insanity. Just Atlanta's on fire. It's covered in wounded and dead bodies. What's her name? Jumps in the thing with Kizzy, the hilarious black maid, and they have a baby, and the baby's crying, and Rhett Butler shows up and gets them out, and like they're going to be attacked by their own people. It's just, that's what we're going to wake up into. I think a very good chance that Trump will resign or have some sort of medical condition that justifies it. He's getting booed at the Knicks thing. A really good way to think of Trump right now, I think, is I'll wind down with this. It's very similar to to the Vietnam War and Richard Nixon, except it's an opposite. In other words, the movie with Oliver Stone and Anthony Hopkins is really, really good. And you'll see that Nixon is he's sort of a small man. He's like, admittedly so. He's like, I'm from a small lemon farm in California. And he was always intimidated by the Kennedys and overshadowed by the Kennedys, and of course lost to John Kennedy in 1960. And what I would suggest is a conspiracy took them both out. And both of those conspiracies had some relation to the Vietnam War. Trump is going to lose. The Vietnam War in total was 25 years, if you've really done your deep dive on the homework. Trump is not just going to lose the Iran war. Trump is going to lose the war on terror. The 25-year, $40 trillion war on terror brought to you by the Zionists and the neocons and Israel. Remember, Israel and the United States have now merged. That's in the congressional record. Go look it up. He will lose this war. He has lost the position of the executive in a way that is frankly far worse than Nixon, right? Because Nixon could take himself out with some, like he called the Vietnam War, peace with honor, and then Nixon took himself out. That was also a conspiracy run by the deep state, because Deep Throat was an FBI agent. But he took himself out. He did the two-finger salute on Marine One, frankly gave a really good speech. He's a creepy guy. I mean, he is. He's the smile and everything. He's just a creepy-looking guy. Nixon sort of looks like he's wearing a Nixon mask that people used to wear all the time in Halloween. But he gives a really good speech, a very American speech, sort of a Teddy Roosevelt kind of, it's not the critic who counts, but the man who's in the arena kind of a vibe. Trump has none of that. Trump will be completely Captain Beefhearted by this. And he will be booed out of the White House, even if he stays his whole term. By the end of his term, he will look like not only the Epstein and the war and pulling Netanyahu's chair out. Netanyahu's probably going to go to jail. The whole thing will collapse. Now, remember, this is what I want you to take away, and I'll get this done by 12:30. Then we can listen to some more Captain Beefheart. So you have the stock market. In the early 70s, they were called the Nifty 50. Sound familiar? Now we have the Mag 7. We have the energy crisis. That was also part of the early 70s when the inflation really began. The inflation began with us, with COVID, and coming out of that, and then it fell down, and now it's coming back. If you look at the cycle of inflation, here's the good news, or the bad news is that it's just begun. The good news is we only have about 20 years left of it. The inflation cycle is about 50 to 60 years long, from peak to peak to trough to trough. The Federal Reserve does not control inflation. And you'll see that you'll see what's the Fed going to do? Raise rates this fall? when gas prices go to $6 and $7 a gallon. In California, the price of gas could go to $10 a gallon. Is the new guy going to raise interest rates when that happens? Because it won't bring down the price of gas. It'll just be another cost input into the system of higher interest. The stock market, energy war. Swirlogram that in the early 70s. That's what Nixon is in. If you watch the movie, you'll see that he's like living in this world. He has to deal with like Texas oil men and shit. Trump will be living in the same thing and will have no exit out of any of it. Okay? He will be like consumed by the problem and consumed by the fact that Richard Nixon did not start the Vietnam War, but Trump started the Iran War. Follow me? Here's what I really wanted to get at. If you look, because in the middle of this Venn diagram of energy, stock market, energy, and the war, in the middle of it is psychology. It's not the numbers. We have the numbers from all three places already. We have the valuations. We have the fact that the fucking ships haven't been floating the oil around for the last 4 or 5 months, 100 days, I guess it is. And we have the war. The war is a complete fucking disaster. Okay? All those things are a given. The numbers are on the books, but nothing's really changing yet because the psychology hasn't changed yet. That's what I'm getting at. The stock market bottomed the same month that Nixon left the White House. Did she begin to think? I don't get it. The stock market, all these things eventually are just psychology. And the destruction of the executive branch brought on by Israel, Netanyahu, the AIPAC, in complete control of Congress, the psychology will be worse than Watergate. Far worse than a third-rate burglary, right? This isn't a third-rate burglary. This is like hundreds of thousands of kids have been murdered since COVID by both parties. The stock market bottomed. Now, I'm not saying the stock market's going to bottom. What I'm saying is the psychology of the stock market doesn't have any psychology right now. It doesn't have any. It's like a blind, I don't know, out of control bull running through the streets or something. Pun intended. They call it a bull market, right? It has no monetary justification. There's no way to explain how OpenAI will ever make $1 trillion. In other words, if you bought all of OpenAI, the whole thing, all the shares, there's no math that says how they're ever going to make it back. I mean, literally, there's a quote. I heard it driving home from Chattanooga. Guy wrote a book called Blood in the Machine about AI. And they put on this interview of Sam Altman. He says, yeah, we don't really know how we're going to make money. We're just going to scale, and see what happens. And we'll figure it out. And that's the stock market. That's Wall Street. They're funding this stuff. They're funding these hyperscaler activities with money from an annuity company, the biggest annuity company in the country, called Athene. Apollo bought Athene so it could ram its dog shit finance deals into it. You don't quite understand that, do you? In other words, the final capital for the most insane investment ever made by Wall Street is coming from money on the books for little old ladies. This is called
Captain Beefheart now. We turned him loose in the studio, let him direct his own segment, and now we'll match up the feet that you saw at the beginning, and the bodies of Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band.
This is called When Big Jones Sets Up. This is where we are, people. We're in the Captain Beefheart stage. So,
my hands too small, feel like a ball. She tied on the horse, I galloped off into the movie. Well, I'm a blind to kind of people see the food.
I think anytime the stock market has very significant sell-offs, I don't mean like 1%. I mean like when you start to get over like 4% and 5%, you're historically in the big, very, very rare moves of the stock market. Okay. I think whenever that happens, you can, at the close, I'll probably be on here, probably with the tie on and probably opening the segment with Captain Beefheart. Now, the other thing that we're looking at very strongly, is Injun Chucky, longtime fan of the show, has suggested that I look at Kick, which is like a Gen Z, primarily like a video game live action kind of a thing. And I'm thinking of doing that like in the evening on the weekend. I might do like a Black Friday thing. We'll play music, talk about markets, and like talk about this intern thing. And I'll show you the intern Bruno AI thing is like a video game. We're going to turn like the economy into like a video game with AI. What? So like a 22-year-old can sit in the middle of south side of Chicago and like talk about real estate prices and mortgages and lease rates and square footage, like with anybody that's CBRE. So a young intern can talk about the stock market, how to raise capital. Why not this is what they never explained to you. You have to buy their shit in your 401k. That's how they have it set up. Okay. So the reason I've done this is to explain to you that there's all these new things that are going to happen on blockchain that are going to completely revolutionize finance. You'll be able to invest in things that you've never thought of investing in before. And at some point you'll have this magic, by the way, Captain Beefheart's band is called the Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band. You'll have this magic moment where you go, you mean we could like put $50 million in area code with like 1% of mutual fund assets? Yeah. And then your brain will go, what the fuck? What are we even doing? That's what's coming, people. And this is why I wanted to play Captain Beefheart, put my tie back on, because when all this hits and your parents and friends and family are all like, oh my God, how did this happen? You'll be like, whatever. Whatever. It is non-alcoholic. It's really good. Injun Rocky Chew. I'm thinking of doing a Black Friday. We'll play I like R&B. We'll play that up a little bit. We don't have to explain this, but like, where are the opportunity zones? They're in rural America and they're in urban America. So we'll have fun with that. It'll be like, and increasingly you're going to see that lots of suburbia is under a lot of duress. Yeah. All the miles of blacktop made for soccer moms to drive around SUVs as they're taking their kid to their 300th baseball game a year. to buy $400 gloves and fucking Gatorade and all the insanity that is the American way of life is going to come to an end this fall. Noir Friday. Yes, Noir Friday. And then I think I have to go on Rumble and just beat the fuck out of all those fake conservatives. I think they need it. And I'm the guy to do it. I mean, I think Ben Shapiro will be gone by this. I think the Daily Wire will just be out of business by the end of the year. And there'll be like a void of nothing that the conservative movement believes in will make any sense as we go into Captain Beefheart mode. They won't have any answer for this. We're not going to cut taxes and all the fuckery that we've done since Reagan. It'll all be gone. The inflation will be out of control. We'll see. AI will be gutting the big tech companies, gutting the employment opportunities.
That's too small. She's like a ball. She tied off a horse and galloped off into the
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And a very special Hump Day Nooner with Captain Beefheart. Have a nice week.